students, I welcome you all to the lecture number 6 of Sale of Goods Act 1930 in CA Foundation lecture series sponsored by Sri Jendra Rank Zone. I am your mentor Shekhar Gehlot. Okay, so till now we have discussed sale, its essentials, and seller and buyer and conditions and warranties. Okay, we have discussed especially what are conditions, what are warranties, and what are implied conditions and implied warranties. And in the case of a breach of a condition, you get a right. The buyer get a right to return the item, reject the item, or return the item and to seek a complete refund. Or in the case of a breach of a warranty, the buyer gets a right to seek a partial refund, and that is called a compensation. He cannot return the product, but he can only seek a uh, compensation. You can say part refund. Okay, part refund, not complete refund. That is a compensation only. Now we read to the rule of caveat emptor. Caveat emptor, which is an exception. Okay, which is an exception. So this rule of caveat emptor is an exemption to the implied conditions and warranties. There are some implied conditions and warranties which we discussed, which law assumes to be present in every contract of sale and purchase. Okay, in every contract of sale and purchase, there are some implied conditions and warranties which are there, even if they are not written. Okay, but they can be definitely avoided by expressly mentioning in a separate agreement or in the similar agreement that we exclude these warranties unless these warranties or conditions shall be read part of any agreement irrespective of fact whether they are having it mentioned or not. Now we read about rule of caveat emptor. Okay, caveat means caveat is a Latin term which means aware, aware or awareness, aware or awareness. Okay, emptor on the other hand, emptor signifies buyer. Okay, someone who's going to buy that product. So the rule of caveat emptor, if we translate it into English in literal sense, it comes out to be the aware buyer. Okay, a buyer who is aware. Okay, a purchaser who is self-aware, who has some knowledge. Now let us read what this rule of caveat emptor as provided in Sale of Goods Act says. In case of sale of goods, the doctrine caveat emptor means let the buyer beware. So the doctrine means let the buyer be, let the buyer beware. Beware means let the buyer be aware. Okay, it is written as beware, but it means be aware. He should himself be aware of it. Okay, aware means awareness or knowledge, having a knowledge. Let the buyer have his own knowledge. Okay, sir. When sellers display their goods in open market, okay, in open market, when sellers display their goods, it is for the buyers to make a proper selection or choice of goods. Okay, now first of all, this thing is operating in open market only. Open market means as per the what we studied in our economics, open market is where free competition is there. Okay, no entry exit barriers are there. Here it is applicable only in open market, not in monopolistic or oligopolistic market where only few sellers are there, like two or three sellers are there. Okay, this rule of Cambridge-Templer applies on open market when there is a perfect competition, a lot of sellers and buyers are there. When sellers display their goods in open market, it is for the buyer to make a proper selection or choice of goods. It is for the buyer. Now buyer must make a proper selection or choice of goods. He must make his own choice. We cannot compel someone to make a choice, like I have been stressing it since beginning of Contract Act and Sale of Goods Act, that you cannot compel someone to make a choice. Choice should be free. That is called free consent. Okay, so it should be a free consent, free selection. If goods turn out to be defective, he cannot hold the seller liable. If goods turn out to be defective, he cannot hold the seller liable. Defective here means not, by defective we do not mean manufacturing defect, but defective for his use. Okay, defective for his own use. Like I buy a bat. Okay, bat to play cricket. I buy a bat to play a cricket. Okay, now I buy a bat thinking that it would be sufficient to play with leather ball, but actually it is only for a tennis ball. Okay, so when I use it for playing with leather ball, the bat cracks down. Okay, now I cannot go back to the seller and claim refund or a breach of warranty or a condition. Okay, because I myself made a selection and I chose that bat as per my own knowledge. I believe that this is a bat which will be used for playing with a leather ball, but this bat was actually suitable only to play with a tennis ball or a Costco ball, okay, rubber ball we can say. So when I used it against a leather ball, after a few shots, the bat came out, okay, or the bat broke down. So now I cannot run against the seller and chase him in the market. The seller is in no way responsible for the bad decision or bad selection of the buyer. The seller is not bound to disclose the defects in the goods which he is selling. Okay, now this is also important. The seller is not bound to disclose the defects in the good. Not bound to disclose. You have to yourself find out whether it will have those defects or not. Like, let us say, like woolen products, sweaters, shawls, etc. They usually shrink upon washing. Okay, so now usually the rule used to be that people used to buy an extra size. Okay, if medium size fits to me, I will buy large size. If large size fits to me, I'll buy extra large size. Why? Because upon shrinking it will revert to one size smaller, so the large will become medium and it will fit me. Okay, so if you are making selection of woolen products, sweaters, shawls, then you should be yourself aware. The seller is not bound to tell you that it will shrink upon washing. Okay, you have to yourself be careful about that particular quality of the product, or let us say, now what I did, I bought a black jeans. Okay, and when I washed it along with other white clothes or other light colored clothes, the color faded or the color came off in the water and it went upon to the other clothes as well and discolored them. So now my other clothes are damaged. Okay, so now the seller is not bound to tell me this thing. that upon washing this may lose color and you should not wash it with the white color clothes and etc. Okay, I should have this choice. I should have my own knowledge about this. Okay, we cannot expect seller to be very critical of his own goods. After all, he's in a market to make profit. If he keeps on disclosing each and every defect of the good, definitely no one is going to buy his product. So he's just showing you the product and the price, and it is a jeans. Definitely he'll sell you a jeans. The defect on the seller's part may be when you purchase the jeans, but instead he give you a knicker. Okay, so he cannot definitely give you a knicker. You choose a jeans, whatever jeans you chose he gave you. Now when upon washing it gave off the color, so now seller is not liable to pay for the clothes which have now got damaged. Okay, this is not for the seller, this is for the buyer to see. It is the duty of buyer to satisfy himself before buying the goods that the goods will serve the purpose for which they are being bought. If the goods turn out to be defective or do not serve his purpose, or if he depends on his own skill or judgment, the buyer cannot hold the seller responsible. Okay, it is your own choice. You should make a research. If you feel that this particular good is more suitable to your choice and you are not taking any advice from the seller, you are your own self on your own accord making a choice, then only you are liable to make a poor choice. The one who makes a poor choice is liable for his own choice. Okay. Okay, so now here the buyer has made a poor choice, so he is now himself liable. Excuse me. The rule of KV Templar is laid down in section 16, which states that now this is the crux, this is the text of section 16. What section 16 says now, let us see. Subject to the provisions of this act or any other law for the time being in force, there is no implied warranty or condition. Excuse me. Subject to the provisions of this act or any other law for the time being in force, there is no implied warranty or condition as to the quality or fitness for any particular purpose. For any particular purpose, okay? It says for any particular purpose. It is not saying that there is no implied warranty or condition as to the quality or fitness of the good as a whole. Okay, they are not saying that good can be of defective quality. No, but only limited to the particular purpose of goods. Okay, particular purpose of goods. So, when you find a good as per your own choice for a particular purpose without taking any advice or aid or assistance from the seller. Okay, in such a case, you cannot hold seller liable for making or for supplying a good which is not fulfilling your own product. Okay, now you buy a jacket. Okay, I buy a leather jacket, but upon buying, definitely when I buy a leather jacket, I buy it for keeping me warm during winters, but I'm still finding myself cold. Okay, I'm still feeling cold. Now in this case, definitely I cannot hold seller liable because he has just sold me a leather jacket. I went to his store. Okay, see what I did. I went to his store in order to find a leather jacket. I asked him that you please show me some leather jacket. Okay, now he has displayed some leather jackets to me. Now I myself make a selection of the leather jacket. So now I made a selection of the leather jacket. I bought it, paid the price. Now his guarantee or condition or warranty runs only till the fact that the leather should be genuine. Okay, jacket should fit you. Okay, jacket should not be a stolen one. Okay, but if you still feel cold, now that is not his responsibility. Following are the conditions to be satisfied. Okay, for this rule of KV temperature to be applicable, these are the conditions which have to be satisfied. If the buyer had made known to the seller, sorry, these are the exemptions from the rule of KV temperature. In case someone wants to seek claim, now there is a dispute between a buyer and seller about a defective product, okay, which is not fulfilling the purpose for which it is bought. Now he has filed a case against the seller. Now seller relies on the rule of KV temperature. Seller says that buyer should have been himself aware. Why is he holding me liable right now after making his own choice? Now how can buyer deflect this accusation, this averment leveled by the seller? Then he can claim exemption or seek exception to the applicability of rule of KV tempter upon himself by claiming upon following conditions. Now these are the conditions upon which exemption or exception to the rule of KV tempter can be validly sought. If the buyer had made known to the seller, if the buyer had made known to the seller the purpose of his purchase, and the buyer relied on the seller's skill and judgment. Okay, now come back to our leather jacket example. Okay, now I am in Delhi, I live in Delhi, so I went to a Delhi shop and I make these two statements. Okay, now you can understand the difference between two statements. I tell to the seller, I want to buy a leather jacket to keep me warm during winters. Now he has supplied me a leather jacket because he does not know that he thinks and he has all the rights to believe just because I'm in Delhi, so I'll be wearing it in Delhi only. So he gives me a leather jacket which is suitable for winters in Delhi. Okay, now if I still feel cold, okay, and sorry, now I take this jacket and go to Himalayas, mountains are known to be to be going for very drastically less temperature, okay, even below zero on many occasions. So definitely I'll feel cold there because I took a jacket which was suitable for Delhi only. But let us see the another case. In the second situation, if I tell the seller that I want to buy a jacket which will keep me warm, especially in the winters when I go to mountains or Himalayas. Now everyone knows that mountains are very cold, so he should give me now a good jacket. Now if he gives me a jacket which is suitable only for Delhi, even despite telling him that I want one jacket which is to be worn in mountains, now this guy can be held liable. Now the seller is liable because I have relied upon his own skill and judgment and his recommendation. Okay, because he's a jacket dealer, he's been dealing with the jacket, so he should be more aware about the nature of the jacket or which jacket is suitable for what purpose. Okay, I as a buyer only know that jacket definitely will provide me some level of comfort in winters. So when I rely upon his judgment to go on mountains and buy a jacket as suggested by him, and now I feel cold because this jacket is supposed to be worn only in Delhi winters. Now in this case the seller cannot say that the rule of caveat emptor be applied to the buyer and he should have himself been aware. Okay, This is now exception because I relied upon the skill and judgment of the seller, not on my skill and judgment. Okay, it is upon the skill and judgment of seller. Seller's business to supply goods of that description. Okay. Now, seller's business is to supply goods of that description. Okay, like mm, okay. Now there's a company which says Tires for All Roads Private Limited. Now this company claims that we sell tires which can be fitted in any vehicle, and then that vehicle can be taken on mountains, on plain roads, on dusty roads, on sandy roads, on wet roads, during floods, okay, and on broken roads, on off-roading, every kind of road, right from plain to the worst possible road available, you can drive the tire claimed by our company. Okay, now he's selling it by description. Okay, this is a description. He's describing it that our tires are of such toughness. Okay, or they have such durability or quality. Now, when I buy tire on the description of the seller, and tomorrow when I take the tire to some of my, I go to my village, and now two of the tires have become flat, and they are now completely scratched out. Okay, they are completely torn out. Now the buyer cannot, now the seller cannot say that you should not have taken the car to the your villages because the roads in your villages are very dirty or very bad or in very poor condition, so that is why your tire has torn off, and now I am not responsible, you should have driven it on the normal charcoal roads. Okay, he cannot claim the buyer beware rule now because he is selling the goods of, he's selling the goods by description. Okay, he's selling the goods by description. Or let us say the example of sugar free candy or sweets etc. He has mentioned broadly, okay, with a big label: sugar free chocolate, sugar free sweets, sugar free candy. Okay, and I'm a patient, I'm one who's having diabetes, I'm a diabetic person, so I'm recommended to buy less sugary items. So I, upon seeing this sugar free chocolate or sugar free sweets, I decided to buy this sugar free sweet. Now upon eating it, my sugar levels have suddenly gone up. Okay, they have suddenly gone up, and now I'm feeling uncomfortable. Now this person is liable because this sugar free product is actually having sugar into it. Okay, or let us say eggless bakery. Okay, eggless bakery, but ultimately it finds, it is shown that the bakery is having some quantity of egg. So these are the conditions when you are selling something by description, and that description is wrong. So in this case, the seller cannot claim the protection of kV tempter. He cannot say that buyer should himself be aware. A sold pigs to B. These pigs being infected caused typhoid to other healthy pigs of the buyer. It was held that seller was not bound to disclose that the pigs were unhealthy, the rule of law being caveat emptor. Okay, the buyer should have himself checked out or inspected upon the pigs. Okay, this should have been a different case if he asked the seller that whether your pigs are healthy or not, and he would have said they are absolutely healthy. Then it would have been a different case. But in this case, what had happened, he had sold the pigs with all faults. Okay, whatever faults in the pigs, you take them with faults. So now the buyer should have been aware, and he should have examined the pigs that what fault a pig may be having. Second example, A purchased the horse from B. A needed the horse for riding, but he did not mention this fact to B. So now he needed the horse for riding, but he did not mention the fact to B because horses can be used for so many other purposes, for towing as well, okay, for carrying a vehicle as well. The horse is not suitable for riding, but is suitable only for being driven in the carriage, okay. Horse can be only put into the carriage, but not suitable for riding. QV tempter rule applies here, and so A can neither reject the horse nor can claim compensation from B because he should have informed that I want horse for riding. Unless you tell what do you want horse for, other person is selling you a horse. You asked for a horse, he gave you horse. Now what horse can do or cannot do, that depends upon the quality or the breed of horse. So buyer should have himself been aware. Exceptions. The doctrine of KV tempter is, however, subject to the following exceptions. Okay, it is subject to following exceptions. Further exceptions in the doctrine of KV tempter. Fitness as to quality or use. Okay, these are further exceptions. Fitness as to quality or use, where the buyer makes known to seller the particular purpose for which the goods are required so as to show that he relies on seller's skill or judgment. The goods are of a description which is in the course of seller's business to supply. It is the duty of seller to supply such goods as are as reasonable fit for that purpose. We have already discussed it in point 1 here. Okay, we have discussed this thing. This is the brief. They are telling it in detailed manner. Ultimately, they are saying that if you did if the buyer depends upon the judgment and the skill of the seller, then seller cannot claim the blanket protection of rule of caveat emptor. Now let's read this example. An order was placed for some trucks to be used for heavy traffic in hilly country. Heavy traffic in hilly country. The trucks supplied by the seller were unfit for this purpose and broke down. There is a breach of condition. Okay, because the trucks were brought exclusively with the condition that trucks should be such which are usable in heavy traffic in hilly country, but ultimately the trucks were not suitable for heavy traffic in hilly country and they broke down. So now because the order was of particular description, now seller is liable to refund. Okay, in priest versus last, this is a case from where we get a celebrated judgment in rule of KV tempter. P, that is priest. A draper purchased a hot water bottle from a retail chemist. Okay. Now, last is a retail chemist. So, priest asked that he wanted a hot water bottle. Okay. And P asked the chemist if it would stand boiling water. Okay. If it would stand boiling water. The chemist told him that the bottle was meant to hold hot water. Okay, the bottle burst when water was poured into it and injured his wife. Okay, it was held that the chemist shall be liable to pay damages to P as he knew that the bottle was purchased for the purpose of being used as a hot water bottle. Okay, when you are buying a hot water bottle, okay, hot water bottle is a rubber bottle which is used to treat injured people who have some injuries. Okay, so a great degree of hot water is put into that bottle and then the bottle is applied to that particular region of your body. Okay, so when chemist knew that this particular bottle is purchased only for medicinal uses and hot water is poured into it, okay, then he should not have given him inferior quality bottle which was supposed to hold hot water only or some less hot water rather than boiling water. Where the article can be used for only one particular purpose, The buyer need not tell the seller the purpose for which he required the goods, but where the article can be used for a number of purposes, the buyer should tell the seller the purpose for which he requires the goods. If he wants to make the seller responsible, okay. So if some article is can be used only for one purpose, okay, then he do not need to mention his requirements. But if one particular thing can be used for multiple ways, then he should definitely tell his purpose. Now suppose buyer goes and buys a toothbrush. The toothbrush can be used only for cleaning your teeth, okay, only for brushing your teeth. You cannot use toothbrush for any other purpose. So in such a scenario, the seller is not liable when you try and wash your car or some engine parts of your car with a toothbrush and it is not sufficient there, okay. But if you are going to buy a normal brush which can be used for multiple ways, then you should tell him that I am going to use this brush for cleaning my coat or cleaning my laundry or cleaning my floor or cleaning my car, something like this, okay. But you buy a toothbrush is a toothbrush, it has only one purpose, that's it, cleaning your teeth. In Bombay Burma Trading Corporation Limited versus AGA Muhammad, timber was purchased for the express purpose of using it as a railway sleepers, and when it was found to be unfit for purpose, the court held the contract could be avoided. Okay, when you are buying railway sleepers are where you put wooden logs beneath the railway track. Okay, if you have seen the railway track, you must have seen there are wooden logs beneath the railway tracks. They are specifically put there for dispersal of the load of the moving train, okay, so that the weight of the moving train can be segregated or can be divided or can be carried on by different logs, and the rail line doesn't go down in the ground, okay. So but when these wooden logs were found insufficient for the purpose, therefore the contract was held to be avoided because they had made an express order for wooden logs which are capable enough to be put used as a uh, railway sleepers. Goods purchased under patent or brand name. In case where the goods are purchased under its patent name or brand name, there is no implied condition that the goods shall be fit for any particular purpose. Okay. When the goods are purchased in a brand name, there shall be no implied condition that the goods shall be fit for any particular purpose. This rule is also not applicable to rule of caveat emptor. Okay. In this case, no one is at fault, neither the buyer nor the seller, but ultimately it is upon the manufacturer what he is doing, okay. Here the seller has no liability at all when he is selling a patented product. Only liability he has is that the patented product is actually a original brand product or a patented product. So now if there is any defect, seller is not liable, okay, in any case. So rule of caveat emptor does not come into picture here, because rule of caveat emptor comes into picture when you try to put liability on the seller. When there's a liability of seller, he can use rule of caveat emptor as an excuse. But when we talk about brand product or patented products, the seller does not have any other liability than assuring that the products are original, okay. Then there comes no picture of any liability by the seller, so there is no application of rule of caveat emptor as well. Goods sold by description. Where the goods are sold by description, there is an implied condition that the goods shall correspond with the description. If it is not done, seller is responsible. Okay, then the seller is responsible here. Goods of mercantile quality. Where the goods are bought by description from a seller who deals in goods that the description there is an implied condition that the goods shall be of mercantile quality. The rule of caveat emptor is not applicable, okay? But where the buyer has examined the goods, this rule shall apply if the defects were such which ought to have not been revealed by ordinary examination, okay? So when the goods are bought by the description, definitely there is no application of rule of caveat emptor here. Why? Because goods must be with the description. If they do not tell you with the description, seller cannot say that rule of caveat emptor is applicable here. So rule of caveat emptor does not come into picture when we are talking about a sale by description. Okay. Similar is the case of goods of mercantile quality. When you are selling goods of mercantile quality, okay, then in this case rule of caveat emptor does not come into picture, because if the goods are not found to be of mercantile quality, definitely seller is liable and he cannot claim exception of rule of caveat emptor. Okay, but if there is a defect in the good, okay, and the good defect in the good is of such a nature that even upon ordinary examination, buyer could not have found out the defect on the goods, then in this case you can definitely hold seller liable, okay, because the rule of caveat emptor will not come into picture upon those goods, those defects which cannot be found out even by an ordinary examination. We cannot expect buyer to make a very detailed or scientific examination with all the tools and technologies at his disposal. Okay, we can expect a buyer to make only a reasonable ordinary inspection which is applicable case to case basis. Sale by sample. When the goods are bought by sample, the rule of caveat emptor does not apply if the bulk does not correspond with the sample. Okay, when we talk that rule of caveat emptor shall not apply in these cases, you must understand that what is the in whose benefit the rule of caveat emptor is operates. Okay, in whose benefit the rule of caveat emptor operates. The rule of caveat emptor operates in the larger benefit of the seller only, because by claiming this rule of caveat emptor he can seek exemption from the suit filed by the buyer upon those defects for the specific purpose. Okay, but we are now talking conditions in which the rule of caveat emptor do not come into picture. Okay, do not come into picture. Seller cannot take excuse of rule of caveat emptor. One such condition is sale by sample. When he has shown a sample to you, okay, and when someone has purchased after looking at the sample, then definitely bulk should correspond with the sample. Okay, now whatever bulk you have, okay, it does not fulfill your purpose, that is a different issue. But if the sample does not correspond to the bulk at all, then you cannot claim caveat emptor. Okay, then you cannot claim caveat emptor, because buyer cannot be aware of the bulk, he can only see the sample. That is a different story when the bulk corresponds to the sample but it does not fulfill your purpose. Okay, and you have gone on your own judgment, that then this rule of caveat emptor will be applicable. But if the bulk is totally different, you have shown a basmati rice, ultimately it turns out to be an ordinary raw golden rice, then you cannot claim caveat emptor. That caveat or the buyer should have himself examined it. Goods by sample as well as description. So we have already discussed sale of goods by sample as well as description. So similarly, when the goods are being sold by sample as well as the description of goods, then definitely goods should correspond to the sample as well as description. If they do not do so, then rule of caveat emptor is not applicable, because rule of caveat emptor is only applicable when the goods do not fulfill your purpose, but it is not applicable when you are cheating someone by showing a different sample and supplying a different bulk. Okay, that is cheating. Rule of caveat emptor cannot come to the rescue of a seller in such a situation. Trade usage: an implied warranty or condition as to quality or fitness for a particular purpose may be annexed by uses of trade, and if the seller deviates from that, this rule of caveat emptor is not applicable. Okay, that means particular type of trade. Okay, there is a pattern in that kind of trade of goods. Okay, if you follow that pattern and then if something wrong happens, then seller cannot claim the exception of rule of caveat emptor. Let us see. In ready-made garment business, there is an implied condition by use of trade that garment shall be reasonably fit on the buyer. Okay, this is a rule that garment shall be reasonably fit on the buyer. So if a garment is reasonably fitting on the buyer and the buyer still says no, it should fit me like this or that, I have seen a model, it should fit like just it did on the model. Okay, so you cannot file a case against the seller in this manner. Seller is protected by rule of caveat emptor, but it is not fitting you at all. It is either very large in the size or very small in the size. Then definitely you can claim refund from the seller, and seller cannot claim the exception of uh, uh, caveat emptor that buyer should have himself been aware. He should have checked the size. Okay, but it is not then that when you say this is a medium size and you give him, you have written medium but the size is actually extra small. Okay, so medium should reasonably be medium, or large size should reasonably be large size. You cannot give triple XL in the name of large. Okay, so this is the seller's responsibility. If the large size has been given and it reasonably fits the buyer, but the buyer wants some specific fitting, then seller is not at fault, it is buyer's fault. Seller actively conceals a defect or is guilty of fault. Where the seller sells the goods by making some misrepresentation or fraud and the buyer relies on it, or when the seller actively conceals some defect in the goods so that same could not be discovered by the buyer on a reasonable examination, then the rule of caveat emptor will not apply. In such a case, the buyer has a right to avoid the contract and claim damages. Definitely when there is a misrepresentation or fraud or a cheating committed on by the seller, then he cannot claim caveat emptor. He cannot say that buyer should have been aware, because he is actively committing a cheating here. So law does not protect someone who's a cheater. Law doesn't protect thieves. Okay, so here this seller is behaving like a thief or a scoundrel. So lawyer does not protect scoundrel or fraudsters, so he cannot claim that buyer himself should have been aware while making a purchase. Transfer of ownership and delivery of goods. Now we are done with heavy temperature and we'll deal with how transfer of ownership takes place and how goods are delivered. Take a moment and read what is written here. Sale of goods involves transfer of ownership. Definitely, if you are selling something, ownership has to be transferred. If ownership transfer is not taking place, we cannot call it a sale at all. We can call it renting, pledging, bailment, hiring, or anything, but definitely we cannot call it a sale. Okay, we have already discussed different types of transactions which appear like sale but they are not sale. Okay, so if the ownership is not transferring, the property in goods is not getting transferred from one person to other, this will not be a sale. It may be any other kind of transaction but not sale. Sale happens only when transfer of ownership of property from seller to buyer takes place. It is essential to determine the time at which the ownership passes from the seller to buyer. Okay, now this is a very crucial point. We have to determine at what time the ownership passed from the seller to buyer, because risk passes with the property. If suppose the owner or the seller is having the ownership right now and there is only a contract of sale, but sale has not taken place, ownership has not passed to the buyer, and if something wrong happens to the goods, then seller is liable. If it has gone to the buyer, then no issues. So when goods are kept for contract of sale but the ownership has not passed, the risk is with the seller, otherwise the risk is with the buyer. So in order to determine who will face the risk, who is liable to bear the risk, it is very crucial to understand at what time the transfer of property in goods or say ownership of goods took place. Importance of the time of transfer. The general rule is that risk prima facie passes with the property. In case where goods are lost or damaged, the burden of loss will be borne by the person who is the owner at the time when the goods are lost or damaged. Okay, so the burden of loss will be borne by the person who is owner at the time the goods are lost. Where the goods are damaged by the act of third party, it is the owner who can take action. Okay, not only about damage, not only about risk, but also right to file a case. Okay, who has the right to file a case if the goods are damaged due to the fault of third party? Who will file the case, buyer or the seller? That is also very crucial in order to understand. Okay, so this time at which the ownership has passed assumes essentiality in this respect as well. It gives right as well. Suit for price by seller lies only when the property has passed to the buyer. Seller can only file a suit against a buyer for payment of the price, because in case the property has gone to the buyer, okay, and buyer is not now paying back, now seller cannot forcibly take back the property from the buyer, because now buyer owns the property. Okay, suppose I have purchased a mobile phone but I have not paid him yet. So now, but I have purchased the mobile phone, now mobile has become mine. I owe him 20,000 rupees, but I do not owe him mobile phone. He cannot forcibly come and take away the mobile phone. It will be an act of stealing. It will be an act of theft. Okay, he can only claim money from me. Now, in that case, if I refuse to pay, then he cannot legally take the mobile back, but he can only take money from me. So it is also important whether the transfer in ownership has taken place or not, if the seller wants to file a case for the price against the buyer. So now let's discuss it in the next lecture, because this lecture is about to end, and the passing of properties, as you can see, is a very detailed part. We cannot complete it in this particular slide. So in this slide we have to, in this lecture we have to remain content with rule of caveat emptor, its applicability, and how you can exempt it from being applicable in case to case basis. So let's do a quick recap of what we have done today. We have discussed the rule of caveat emptor, which says buyer has to be aware if there is any defect as per the user of the goods, as per the specific user of the goods. Then the buyer who has made his own choice will be liable. Seller cannot be made liable for defect in the user, not in the goods, but in the user of goods. Okay, you must understand defect in the good versus defect in the user of good. Okay, and when this thing is applicable, this rule of caveat emptor is available for the aid and assistance of the seller only when he is selling the goods in open market. If he is in a monopolistic situation or an oligopolistic situation, then he cannot claim the benefit of caveat emptor. Okay, benefit of caveat emptor means caveat emptor rules works in favor of seller and against a buyer.
It's
Okay,
3 o'clock.
so now these are the cases where exemption can be sought, where buyer can say that rule of caveat emptor is not applicable upon my case. Let's discuss them in nutshell. If the buyer had made the decision upon the acumen of seller, okay, depending upon the seller's skill, okay, or the seller's business to supply goods is that of by description. he is selling goods by description. Okay, so if goods do not conform to the description, definitely he cannot say buyer is at fault, it is his fault. Fitness as to quality or use. Okay, there should be fitness when he is told that I want that quality of goods, then he should supply, seller should supply that quality of goods. But in case no specific quality is sought, only good is sought, then the quality may be up or down. Okay, in that case buyer will not be, sorry, seller will not be liable. Seller will be liable only when he is told that the buyer wants this particular quality. Okay, if the buyer does not mention quality, he can send any quality. Now this is the priest versus last, in which the hot water bottle burst out and it was held that chemist was liable. Goods purchased under patent or brand name. Definitely in a brand name or a patent name, rule of caveat emptor will not come into picture, because seller is not liable at all. Okay, whatever is the liability is of manufacturer or the brand owner or the patent owner. Seller does not have any control over the quality or fitness of branded goods or patented goods. Okay, so there is no case here in which seller can be held liable. So when seller cannot be held liable, rule of caveat emptor 2 won't come into picture. Goods sold by description should match to the description. Okay, if they match to the description, then that means seller has made his own choice, no caveat emptor available here. Goods to be of merchantable quality. Sale by sample, goods by sample as well as description. Trade usage. Seller actively conceals a defect or is guilty of fraud when he is committing a crime, then he cannot claim buyer beware rule. Now in the next chapter we'll do transfer of ownership.